I guess the question we're going to be asking ourselves today, through the lens of Ben Shapiro, of course, the always wise Ben Shapiro, is Hogwarts Legacy transphobic? I'm fascinated to see what Ben Shapiro has to say about this. So we're gonna start and find out: is Hogwarts Legacy transphobic?
All the things in culture, all the things in life must reflect the diktats of the woke left. It's the most authoritarian force in American life right now.
Jesus fucking Christ. Let's try that again. Ben, what is this?
All the things in culture,
All the things
the
in
things in life
culture
must reflect the diktats of the
must reflect the diktats
woke left. It's
of the woke left, which is the most authoritarian force in American life right now. Okay, so, I think this is a perfect place to start, because obviously Ben Shapiro's fucking stupid. I think we can all agree on that. That's a good thing. I'm glad we can all come together on this. Ben Shapiro, fucking stupid. So what we have here is a consistent thing on the right, which is calling the left authoritarian when the explicit political goals of the right are basically to turn the country into an authoritarian hellhole. But you know what? We could talk about that for plenty of time. But let's move on. Let's hear what Ben has to say.
And that is clearly true, particularly in the culture where they have the whip hand. And the simple fact of the matter is that the woke left occupies all.
Oh, that's very cute. We have a nice little sponsor. Gifts for men. Not for he/hims. These are for males. Only males. I remember I saw I was driving across the country for a job that I was going to be doing this past year, and the first gas station that I stopped at to fill up, I went inside, and the bathrooms, they had the normal men and women signs on them, and then they had paper signs over top of them that said males and females, which I think is basically the same kind of thing here, where, I mean, again, they don't understand the difference between gender and sex, but they also don't really care to, and they're just going to continue to be ignorant about it, but that's fine.
All of the slots in middle management that all the companies that decide exactly how culture is to be done. That is true whether we're talking about woke corporations in non-culture spaces or whether we are talking about culture itself. And that means that they are able to generate an outsized amount of attention and rage directed at particular people. The person who is on the chopping block today, of course, and has been for a couple of years, is J.K. Rowling.
Which is reasonable, because J.K. Rowling is a virulent transphobe. Is very obviously one of the thought leaders behind the TERF movement, which I think is a little bit misnamed, because it assumes that people who claim to be transphobic for feminist reasons are actually feminists, which they are not. But what are you gonna do? That's the name that they have given themselves, basically, and the name that the public has kind of gotten behind. So we're kind of stuck with the idea of TERF, trans exclusionary radical feminists. And J.K. Rowling is basically the largest spokesperson for this group. She is a billionaire. She is very, very, very famous. All she had to do was not be a hateful piece of shit, and she could have been known forever as one of the most well-renowned young adult writers of all time. That's all she had to do, was just shut the fuck up. That's literally it. That's all Joanne had to do, was not be a massive fucking bitch. But unfortunately, she's just not capable of that. because the trans people are they're basically trying to make it so that the world that we live in is one where even with billions of dollars, like J.K. Rowling has, she just cannot escape the scourge of transgenderism. So let's see why Ben thinks people are upset.
J.K. Rowling is apparently the worst person in the world. Sure,
There are worse people. J.K. Rowling is really shit.
you say she's the person
I mean, for one, she's British, which, like, is already a knock against her, but, I mean, on top of that, she also fits the British TERF stereotype, which is, you know, pretty much one of the worst stereotypes you can fit.
who wrote Harry Potter. And sure, she's even on the left. You'll remember that she foolishly decided to retcon Dumbledore into a gay dude.
Yeah, this was one of the things that she liked to do in the years kind of leading up to her her taking the reins as the leader of a hate movement against trans people, was just trying to like go back and litigate over different characters and different things that happened in her stories to make them uh to make them fit a different narrative than they ever did effectively in the books. It was a weird period where she was just going through and like retconning a bunch of things. Don't really know who that was for other than her, but you know, what are you gonna do?
There was nothing in the books that suggests that he was gay. But then she was pushed. Why isn't there anyone gay in Harry Potter? And she's like, well, I guess Dumbledore was gay. And then they had to make an entire series, Fantastic Beasts, dedicated to the proposition that we need a backstory for Dumbledore in which he likes dudes. Again, all of
I haven't watched the Fantastic Beasts, have no desire to. You see, one of my favorite things to point out about Harry Potter was the fact that, like, after the last movies came out, like, after Deathly Hallows came out, it felt like Harry Potter, like, as a franchise, kind of just, like, tanked, right? Like, I feel like nobody talked about or gave a shit about Harry Potter for the most part after like the movies finished coming out. Because, like, I remember I grew up as a Harry Potter fan. That was something I was into. I grew up around a lot of Harry Potter fans. And I watched the movies, I enjoyed them, it was a good time. We got through all that, and then it felt like it just kind of disappeared. Until Joanne decided to use her notoriety to attack marginalized people. So, you know, I just think it's interesting that now it has come back into the spotlight, largely, I feel, due to the ramblings of the author.
that is because the woke left always has the whip hand. And J.K. Rowling gave in to a point, but then she refused to give in to the big one, which is men can be women and women can be men.
No. No, just people who identify as men are men, and people who identify as women are women, because that is the only thing that actually factors into being a man or a woman, is your identity as those things, seeing as how that is a social concept and not an actual biological one. But again, you will not recognize the difference between sex and gender. I do not expect you to, at any point in this video, recognize the difference between sex and gender, because as you are, previously stated, an idiot.
It turns out that J.K. Rowling is pretty invested in the idea that only women, biological women, can be women. And this has made her a persona non grata among members of the woke left. Again, despite the fact that she is a member of the political left.
Absolutely not. She is not a member of the political left. This is one of the issues that I have with the idea of TERFs, the trans-exclusionary radical feminists, is that they use the guise of leftist thinking, of feminist thinking, of feminist ideals, of trying to make an equitable world for people, and they use that like underpinning to drag other like unwitting people into their movement, which is just a hate movement against trans people. They are just as conservative as all the other conservatives. They just approach it from a different direction, and that direction specifically is one that allows them to drag other people who would not otherwise be transphobic into their transphobia.
Herself. They've declared that she's a trans-exclusionary radical feminist because apparently you are a TERF if you believe in basic human biology.
Again, not a biological thing, just a social thing.
And this means that there has now been a widespread attempted boycott of Hogwarts Legacy.
And of course, I should mention that Ben knows this. It's not that Ben is, like, entirely stupid. He actually does know that there is a difference between gender and sex. Not only did he know this before, but he has been told this on many, many occasions. He just refuses to acknowledge it because it's politically inconvenient for him. What this last part that he said here? What was this?
And this means that there has now been a widespread attempted boycott of Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah. Okay. So this kind of gets into hi, Faye Helmet. How you doing today? We are going over Ben Shapiro being Ben Shapiro, and then to cope with the fact that the world is a shitty place, I'm gonna play some Overwatch because, you know, sometimes you just need to forget. This is kind of one of my issues with the way that this entire thing has gone, is the attempted boycott of Hogwarts Legacy. Because here's my basic thought process. It was never, ever, ever going to work. And most people who are honest with you will tell you that they knew that there was no possible chance that we could, like, effectively boycott this game. It is a billion-dollar franchise. It is, people have, like, spent their entire childhood being built into this world. This is what people love. Even a lot of people who are, like, trans allies, love trans people, are trans people, still love the world created by J.K. Rowling because that's what they grew up with. And so what you have is you have an impossible task, which is boycotting Hogwarts Legacy to a point where it is not financially successful, which is the only point of boycotting something. The only point of boycotting something is to, like, make it not financially successful so that you can send a message through its financial failure. But we knew, anyone who actually, like, gave it a second thought knows that you cannot do that with this game. It was always going to be a success. So the problem is, when you go in and you, that's very fair if you don't feel like you can stomach the video. I had some other stuff I was going to try and talk about today, and then just had to bite the bullet on the fact that I just can't. I just don't have it in me. So if you don't have it in you, that's totally fine. I will not be offended. It's miserable to be here, but I feel like it needs to be talked about, unfortunately. But the problem is, we knew that we could not effectively boycott this game. No matter what we did, it was always going to sell well. So what happened was, the trans community, a large portion of it, and just a large portion of the left community in general online, have turned this game into basically a moral purity test, where you have people who would otherwise be considered trans allies, people who are amenable to trans people and to trans ideology and to just general, like, human rights for trans people, who are playing this game and are then being excised from being considered trans allies because they are playing this game. Because the thought process of these people is that if they actually cared about trans people, it's not that big a deal to boycott this game. And while that is true, and I 100% agree that it's not going to hurt anybody to not play Hogwarts Legacy, for many, many reasons. One, obviously, it supports J.K. Rowling and her bullshit. Two, it's obviously very, like, transphobic in and of itself. They have a character in there that is very, like, it's basically a parody of a trans person that they have in this game, that was probably added late into development. It is a very anti-Semitic game. There's lots of different issues with this game, not even to mention the fact that they make you play as a British person, which is offensive all on its own. You have to play as a British person, which is just disgusting. However, The problem here is that we've turned this into. I just unfollow people who play Hogwarts Legacy. You see, and I understand that. I understand that thought process, and here's my thing. I understand why people are uncomfortable with people playing Hogwarts Legacy. Entirely. I have no desire to play it, and personally, I do take note of people in my life who do play it, and if they are not like explicitly playing it to like shit on J.K. Rowling and elevate trans people, like yeah, no, absolutely think less of them like as a personal like friend. I think. However, what I don't like is this idea of sort of a leftist political movement being equivalent to a like a social circle. I don't like this idea that because you do something that might make some people in the left uncomfortable with your action, if you are doing something that some people in the left would rather you not do, that you cannot effectively be a member of this left-wing political movement, which I do not agree with. I think that plenty of people are perfectly good trans allies while also playing Hogwarts Legacy. I don't think that actually excludes you from that. And I think that the idea that it does is one that is politically destructive and is going to put trans people in a worse spot down the line than the idea that, yeah, we should probably talk about the problems with this game. We know it's going to do well, but we should probably acknowledge all the flaws with it. But I don't like this moral purity testing to be a part of this political movement. I don't like this, like even like people like Hassan Piker on Twitch, who I mean I know based on the thumbnail that Ben is probably going to talk about in this video, was going to be doing a massive like trans fundraiser, playing Hogwarts Legacy. Hassan's chat very pro-trans. Hassan very pro-trans. The game very dumb. The entire time would have been Hassan and the chat making fun of this game and all of the fucked up shit in it, all of the dumb transphobia, all of the dumb shit that J.K. Rowling has ever said, all the anti-Semitic shit in the game, all of just like the blatant bullshit in this game. The entire stream would have been the chat and Hassan making fun of this. It would have been one of the top streams of the game because Hassan is one of the big streamers on the platform. And at the same time, it would have raised money for trans charities. That is good on every single level. And yet, Hassan got bullied out of playing the game by the online left, even though everything that he was going to do with it would have been a net positive for us. And I don't think this is a good thing for us. Let's see where Ben's going.
Now, as we'll see, wokeism doesn't actually succeed in the marketplace.
Wokeism is non-existent. Wokeism is basically whatever they don't like, they will call wokeism.
Actually leads to tremendous failure in the marketplace, but it does succeed in pushing the Overton window to the left steadily and not all that slowly. It doesn't actually succeed in the marketplace. It's legacy. Now, as we'll see, wokeism doesn't actually succeed in the marketplace. It actually leads to tremendous failure in the marketplace, but
you see, now this is another thing that they will say, is that things, like they have this saying that they always go to, something along the lines of, go woke, go broke. Basically, if you are too woke in your media, which is basically anything that is like not in line with the conservative political line, if you have gay people or trans people or, oh god, even black people in your media, then you are being woke about it. There's another video, I think earlier like this month by Ben, and another one by Matt Walsh, basically the exact same fucking video about it's like going over a trailer for the new The Proud Family reboot. and both of the videos are just like them calling the Proud Family reboot woke because it's a bunch of black people. Like that's literally all it is just this is not this is a group of minorities that we don't like, so it's woke. Like that's all that woke means. And they will constantly scream about how everybody putting woke stuff into their media is making these media projects fail, which is objectively like provably false. Like it happens all the fucking time. They said this about all the fucking shit. They say nothing about quality. Like plenty of things that have like stuff that the right would consider to be woke can be bad quality wise, but it has absolutely no bearing on the like financial success of the thing. But they will consistently say that it does.
It does succeed in pushing the Overton window to the left steadily and not all that slowly. According to Forbes, the highly anticipated Harry Potter video game debuted this week, but it's been plagued by controversy and boycotts as players grapple with whether to support J.K. Rowling's franchise in light of her history of comments widely seen as transphobic. Hogwarts Legacy is a role-playing game set in the Harry Potter universe and developed by Avalanche Software and published by Warner Brothers Games. It will be
I love listening to Ben Shapiro read a news article.
released on February 10th. The game has garnered largely positive reviews on places like Metacritic. However, some fans and gamers are boycotting the game in protest of J.K. Rowling because, of course, she has said that men are men and women are women. Some popular game review sites like Kotaku, Polygon, and Eurogamer have not yet reviewed Hogwarts Legacy despite the review embargo lifting on Monday. Others have denounced J.K. Rowling's comments and voiced support for transgender people in their reviews. Jesse Earl, one trans YouTuber and writer, tweeted in December that unlike consuming previously owned Harry Potter books or films, purchasing Hogwarts Legacy while Rowling is, quote, using her ongoing platform to target and also justify her continued targeting of trans people is hateful to trans people.
I think in an interpersonal setting, I do think that it shows generally, like if you are willing to just ignore the transphobia from J.K. Rowling and all the other dumb shit that J.K. Rowling has done, and just play the game uncritically and just enjoy it uncritically, I do think that shows at least a callous disregard for trans people and for every other group that J.K. Rowling like is just actively harmful to just by the things that she says and the media that she creates. However, I don't like this idea that by playing this game you are not being a trans ally. I don't like this. I think it makes, because here's the problem. Again, you have this game that was always going to do well. You cannot possibly effectively boycott this game to an extent where it actually matters. People know this, and yet they are putting their entire like political backing, like the little bit that they have behind the idea that if you play this game, it is transphobic. You can't play this game, and the idea behind this is to show that the if this game doesn't do well, then that's people standing with trans people against a transphobe. But the problem is, it was never going to happen. The numbers for this game were always going to be big. It was always going to be a success. And there was no possible way for us to optically come out of this the victors. There was absolutely no way to do it. And it may make us feel good to shit on the game, to shit on J.K. Rowling. But the problem is, even if you are doing something that is better objectively, if it has worse outcomes, it is not the thing you should be doing, because everything in politics is about outcomes. You have to consider the outcomes of what you do. And what this movement to boycott Hogwarts Legacy has done, I feel, is it has made the trans community and support for the trans community look incredibly weak, weaker than it actually is. Here's the problem, is the idea of trying to make the left a social space where everybody gets along perfectly and everybody like agrees that, yeah, no, we shouldn't do this thing, and whatever. It's everybody being logically consistent and everybody being, yeah, I don't want to support this because it supports bad people politically, and I don't want to do this, and it hurts trans people interpersonally. I don't want to be supportive of that. the problem is you have this idea in people's heads, and then you also have oh god, my train of thought just completely derailed. Oh god, I don't know. It will come back, I'm sure, as we listen.
Rowling responded accusing her of pure think. Some streamers on Amazon-owned Twitch platforms, including Will Overguard and Nicotine, have publicly voiced opposition to the game. And the idea here is that we have to make sure that no one engages in a game because the creator of the game does not agree with you on a very radical point of view.
I mean, first of all, being like pro-trans is not a radical view. This is the majority of people in the United States, at least, are at least tepidly pro-trans. Okay, this was where I was going with it. Like you can prefer, as a trans person or as a trans ally, whatever, you can prefer that people that you know not play this game, and you can, like, interpersonally understand that, yeah, the people who are not playing this game probably slightly, like, better for you in, like, a, if shit hits the fan, these are probably the people who are going to be better at, like, helping you out in, like, if the state starts cracking down on trans people, these are the people who were willing to not play Hogwarts Legacy, maybe are going to be like 5% more likely to be able to help you out, willing to help you out in that time. The problem is, the left is not a social circle. The left is a political movement. And you can have 10 really, really good trans allies. They can be perfect, they can do everything right, they can be ideologically consistent, they can be so good. They could be like your best fucking friends. But it doesn't matter. It does not matter if you have 10 really, really, really good trans allies. Because what you need for political change is instead 10 million very, very slight trans allies. People who care enough about trans people not to have it impact every decision that they make, because you're never going to get that in today's current climate. You're never going to get the majority of people to actually, like, care that much about trans people. What you need is the most amount of people who just barely support trans people enough to have it influence how they vote. That is what changes politics. That is what actually gets you, like, the ability to protect trans people, is having a majority of people just barely support trans people. That is the best we can hope for. And we're basically already there. We have, like, a majority of people in the United States tepidly support trans people. We need to continue growing that, and we cannot go excising people from being trans allies or from the left broadly because they do not fit some kind of moral purity test. Because all we are doing is, like, shrinking down and compressing that number of people that is very, very critical for us to have to keep trans people from, let's just say, having a bad time politically. Let's just say that.
All of this despite the fact, by the way, that apparently there is a transgender character in the game. I'm not kidding you.
I'm not sure if he's gonna give details about this. If not, I will.
Apparently, Hogwarts Legacy actually does have a transgender character named Sirona Ryan.
Yes, a trans woman in the game named Sirona Ryan. This is what they came up with. This is the thing that they came up with in the game to assuage people's concerns that they were promoting transphobia, is a trans woman named Sirona Ryan. Which, like, if it is not clear to you why this is ridiculous and very funny, then I don't know how to even begin to explain to you. Like, having a trans woman the one trans woman, like the token trans woman in your game that is being slandered, or not slandered, but is being like painted as being transphobic, having a trans character in there and then having the trans woman, her first name, start with Sir, is just absurd.
Is according to Forbes. That, by the way, would be the middle managers at Warner Brothers deciding that in order to avoid the flack, they're simply going to give in to the woke left. But Sirona is...
I actually entirely agree with that. I entirely agree that this was probably done late in development. This was probably done to try and get some good media attention, to try and assuage the claims of transphobia. And I think it's a pathetic attempt at doing so. And I think it was a backhanded attempt at doing so as well, like based on the character herself. I think the way that it is written and the way that the name was chosen for the character was kind of a backhanded insult at trans people.
A witch who runs a tavern in Hogsmeade Village, an NPC that the player can speak to. Sirona doesn't outright say she is a trans woman, but she implies it through her dialogue when she talks about her old classmates and says, "Took them a second to realize I was actually a witch, not a wizard." Now, is that going to buy off the woke left? Of course it's not going to.
Yeah, and if it did, that would be pretty pathetic, but...
Buy off the woke left. Of course not. They're still angry.
But what it will do is it will give the conservatives just one more piece of ammunition to throw at the left. Like, oh, look, you're calling this game transphobic. How can it be transphobic? There's a trans person in it. Which is the same thing that they do with all minority groups. How can I... It's the same thing that happens with Ben Shapiro. How can I be aligned with the same political movement as the Nazis and even have people in my political movement who are actual Nazis when I'm Jewish? How can this be? It can be. It is. That's exactly what's happening. You have people in the Republican Party right now who are just outright flagrant Nazis. And then you have somebody like Ben Shapiro, who is a Jewish man, out here, like, defending them. Because it doesn't matter what your demographic characteristics are, as long as you can, like, prove that you are one of the good ones. Which is something that so many people, like, get into conservatism, the conservative movement, being one of the good ones. Like, being the... Oh, I'm the gay conservative. I may be gay, but God, these woke leftists are just going too far. Or somebody like Blair White, who I may be trans, but God, I understand I'm not actually a woman, and neither are any of these other people. And people like, oh, I'm the black conservative. Here I am. I'm just going to completely ignore all of the things that the conservatives do that affect black people and regurgitate something about the Democratic Party being the pro-slavery party back in the fucking 1800s. This happens constantly. So many of the mouthpieces of conservatism are just these token minorities who are here to, like, basically just scoff at the audience and go, well, how could I possibly be anti-insert demographic characteristic here when I am insert demographic characteristic here? It's very consistent.
And one of the people who is, I think, most hilariously involved in this controversy now is Hassan Piker.
Okay, so yeah, here's the part where he's going to talk about Hassan.
He used to be associated with the Young Turks, and now he is a gamer who declares himself a socialist while buying himself mansions. Really good socialist, Hassan Piker. He's doing some good stuff this week, by the way. He actually donated a bunch of money to victims of the Turkish earthquake. And then he also did some stupid stuff, which is sort of what he normally does.
Hassan does do some stupid stuff sometimes, but, you know, coming from Ben, that is pretty funny.
He announced that he is not going to play Hogwarts Legacy. And the reason he's not going to play Hogwarts Legacy is not because he is in principled fashion angry that J.K. Rowling is such a transphobe. He's not going to do it because he says he's a coward. Which, okay, I mean, points for honesty here, Hassan.
Are we going to see a clip or a tweet here with context, or...
Only reason why I'm not playing this game, and I know a bunch of other people are not playing this game, is because we know that it's not worth it to get bullied endlessly and called transphobic endlessly in when we have massive queer communities and audiences. That's it. Everybody knows how much leftist motherfuckers love to chirp on the internet. They got no power. All they do is chirp, chirp, chirp. And that's precisely why so many fucking people that would otherwise like play it, maybe even raise money for charities or whatever, they're not doing it.
Yeah, no, I entirely agree with that. I think that the grand outcome of this desire to boycott this game has been, one, nothing financially. The game has done very well. Two, a lot of people who would have been critical of the game while playing it and raising money for good causes are not playing it. And three, you have conservatives getting lots of ammunition from all of the above. Like, that is the grand thing that we have achieved through this quote-unquote boycott of Hogwarts Legacy. I think it's pathetic, and it makes the trans community and the left in general look pathetic and unorganized and incapable of understanding the actual effects of the political movements that they ascribe to.
Okay, it's kind of an amazing thing to go on your own show and then just admit that you're a coward and that you won't say the thing because you're so afraid of your own fan base. I mean, he's literally...
Which is really funny because the conservatives, this is literally all that they do. Like, you'll notice in the Democratic Party, nothing changes. Nobody, people will... the vast majority of people will support something very progressive in the Democratic Party, and the Democrats will just go, hee. No, I don't think so. I think we're gonna just continue doing corporatism. Whereas the Republican Party, if, a small subset of them are like, hey, we would vote for you and we would go to bat for you politically, if you would just, dog whistle a little, just throw us a bone, just hey, just tepid support for Nazism, just like this, if you just throw us a little bone, we will go to bat for you. We will support you 100%. And the conservatives are just like, oh, absolutely, right this way. Yes, come walk right into the Capitol. We'll help you get in. Literally happened. Because the Republicans are cowards. They are terrified of their base. In a way, rightly so, because their base is fucking insane. But the Republicans, everything that they do is based on a fear of their base.
He literally said the only reason he's not playing is because people who quote, quote, chirp, chirp, chirp are basically bullying him into not playing the game. Later, he tried to walk this one back. He went on Twitter, he said, people who want to boycott the game aren't wrong to hate J.K. Rowling. She's awful. Except it's fruitless, no matter how much trans folks want to push for it. It's like trying to boycott Disney. Most people...
I agree.
People have no idea and don't care about J.K. Rowling at all, and they just want to go to Hogwarts. Okay, well, I mean, you may be correct about the failure of the boycotts, but they've already won. By getting people like Hassan not to play the game, by bullying him, they've achieved their goal.
No, yeah, that's actually true. That's actually true. Ben has made a correct point here. By keeping Hassan from doing something good, playing a game, ruthlessly criticizing it, raising money for people that the creator does not respect or believe even are people, by keeping this good thing from happening, the people who have been clamoring about the boycott have actually achieved what they wanted to. And the problem is, the outcome is not good. The outcome is worse than what it would have been if they had just shut the fuck up. If they had just said, yeah, this is shitty, and people should criticize this if they play it. That's all they had to say. Not, we're going to try and boycott this thing fruitlessly. Not, we're going to bully everyone who does not boycott this thing fruitlessly, because, again, it's never going to happen. Instead, they could have supported people who were, like Hassan, going to be using this horrible fucking piece of media to raise money for good causes. Instead, politically, we have done nothing at all. We have just made ourselves look weak.
Well, there are a lot of cultural forces aligned against you and against common sense. One corporation that is not aligned against you is Pure Talk. free trial. Me, if you're very smart or what,
Thank you,
Pure
Ben.
rely on Black Rifle Coffee to ensure that I have kids waking me up.
Is this multiple ad reads in the middle of this 14-minute video? Seriously? Holy shit, Ben.
Coffee I rely upon.
You
now,
fucking shill.
Again, there is a massive gap that has now been exposed between the market, which hates wokeness.
Again, the market does not hate quote-unquote wokeness. Yeah, I mean, well, here's the ridiculous thing is they say that that J.K. Rowling is ostensibly on the left. They mentioned the fact that there's a trans character in this, which makes it progressive, apparently. And yet, it is done fantastically, and they're saying that wokeness fails. Like, everything that they say is incoherent.
And the people who actually push the cultural window to the left. There is this huge gap because Hogwarts Legacy is dominating Twitch right now.
Obviously, and it was always going to. But you know what would have been better than a lot of people just uncritically playing the game? Would be one of the top people streaming the game being Hassan, talking shit about the game, with a chat full of people talking shit about the game, talking shit about J.K. Rowling, raising money for trans people. But we can't have that, because we were so upset about the idea of people playing this game that we would rather not have good outcomes just so that we don't have to think about people playing it. And that is politically ineffective. It is bad for us. There is no benefit to us here.
According to Kotaku, the open world Harry Potter RPG is now the most popular game on the live streaming platform. So the market loves Hogwarts Legacy. And yet, all of the commentators and the gamers and all the people who are on the internet, the people like Hassan Piker, they're openly saying that it's not wrong to boycott it, that in fact, they themselves are not going to play the game out of pure fear of their own audiences. So much for the idea that capitalism rules all, or that capitalism always wins. It does win when it comes to money making, right? This game will continue to make money, but it doesn't win when it comes to the culture. So
yeah, and here's the thing. This is what they get to say now, is look at all of these, like, screeching trans people, screeching leftist people, screaming and crying about this game, putting everything they have politically into boycotting this game for nothing. Look at it. It's doing great. So they must be wrong. They must be morally wrong, and the market has agreed with them, or has agreed with the fact that these crazy leftist trans people are they're just wrong, and so you can just write them off entirely, because look at what they put their political effort into. It's pathetic.
So again, the goal in the culture space is to continue pushing things over and over and over again to the left. And you can see how this has had an impact in the real world. It's had real political, real world impact, but it's also had massive impact in terms of the kind of entertainment that people consume. So yesterday, Disney made several simultaneous announcements. Disney has been suffering. They lost apparently 2.4 million subscribers. Now, they have a bajillion subscribers. They can afford to lose 2.4 million subscribers, but that is a damaging thing for them. And the reason for that is a widespread perception that Disney does not like you and does not like your values. This is a major problem for them. They decided to jump both feet into the culture wars, and now they're getting...
Again, like, companies don't really that much, like, media companies engage in the culture war. What they do is they cater to the political sensibilities of the majority, which in the United States, which is the largest market that they tend to cater to most of the time, tends to be like liberal, tends to be like vaguely like left-leaning. Like, yeah, we can have gay people, that's not horrible. We can have trans people, that's not horrible. Like, that's where like the media sits, is in that space. The culture war comes from the right, who takes like things that are just perfectly normal, like having a gay character or a black character or a trans character, and turn them into these massive, like, problematic things that they have to complain about for entire media cycles.
Getting punished for it. But are they going to direct themselves away from that? The answer is probably not. They're going to try to have the best of both worlds. They're going to try to provide legacy content that parents still want their kids to see, while mainstreaming in a bunch of left-wing social content. So they simultaneously announced yesterday 7,000 layoffs, and they want to make sequels to Toy Story, Frozen, and Zootopia. They have no new good ideas, apparently. So they're doing Toy
Yeah, that's fair.
Story 5, which I thought Toy Story 4 was the end of the story. You thought Toy Story 3 was the end of the story. Then they're like, we're back with Toy Story 4, which was good. And then they were like, well, they're now off into the sunset. The gang is leaving. They've all retired. Woody is going off to an island somewhere to be with Bo Peep or whatever. And now apparently they're bringing it back for Toy Story 5 because why the hell not?
Yeah, I mean, like, narratively, does it make sense to have a Toy Story 5? No. Financially, does it make sense to have a Toy Story 5? Probably. So they're gonna do it, because that's what capitalism is.
Will all be long dead and gone when they're making Toy Story 82. Frozen 3 is apparently going to come out again. When I say come out, I mean that all the sim people who are boycotting Harry Potter Legacy or Hogwarts Legacy, all those sim people, I guarantee, I mean, they're already on the internet stumping for Ilsa to just come out as a lesbian.
Okay. She's never been shown to have any attraction to men in the series. She would be just as... It would be just as reasonable for her to be a lesbian as for her to be straight.
This is not a fake thing. It's a real thing. They've been pushing this since Frozen 1, and the clamor began to grow in Frozen 2, and now they're really pushing it for Frozen 3. It'll be fascinating to see if Disney caves to their own middle management wokeists.
It will be really interesting to see, because I'm sure it will spark an entire other media cycle of culture war bullshit.
And they're making Zootopia 2 as well. I don't know where the clamor was for Zootopia 2, by the way. Was Zootopia like a massive hit? In any case.
Yes, Zootopia was a massive hit when it came out.
You can see the simultaneous pressures that Disney is under. From their middle management, there's a lot of pressure to move to the woke. From the market, there's a lot...
Ben, could you please, for the love of God, enunciate a little bit more? What the fuck is this?
From their middle management, there's a lot of pressure to move to the woke.
There's a lot of pressure to move to the woke. He's trying to say woke. What the fuck, Ben?
From the market, there's a lot of pressure to go back to legacy content. And CEO Bob Iger is stuck in the middle. He announced that he was cutting 7,000 employees in hopes of finding $5 billion in savings. He announced that the company would be dumping another round of necessary installments to the Toy Story, Frozen, and Zootopia franchises, according to AV Club. Apparently, the company is also bringing Avatar rides and experiences to Disneyland in California. They already have that over at Disney World. Iger says, I have enormous respect and appreciation for the dedication of our employees worldwide.
Right, is this just going to be, if this is just going to be about the Disney stuff, let's see if he says anything else of work
he said that
here.
About 2 seconds after respecting his employees into unemployment, as the AV Club points out over at The Onion. So, yeah, again, this is just proof positive that many of these companies are running headlong into the woke diktats, and they're feeling the...
So, the idea that they are... Okay, so the fact that Disney has announced sequels to successfully running franchises that have done absolutely, like, nothing in their announcement of these to insinuate that they are going to be any more woke. By announcing these things, that signals that they are going to give in to the woke. Sure, Ben. Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. Who am I to argue with such a prestigious mind as that of Ben Shapiro?
Impact of all of that. So who actually is doing this at these companies? That really is the big question. Who is doing this kind of stuff? The answer is actually not the people at the top of the companies. People at the top of the companies, the very, very top of the companies, those people do answer to the bottom line. They would like to see shareholders increase their market. It really is not people at the lowest rungs. Those people don't care. Those people want to go in every day, do their work, and go home to their families. It's the people in middle management. There's a fascinating paper out from Nikolai Foss at Copenhagen Business School and Peter Klein at Baylor University and the Norwegian School of Economics called Why Do Companies Go Woke?
What a fucking title for an article.
And what they find is that going woke is an emergent strategy that is largely shaped by middle managers rather than owners, top managers, or employees.
Okay, wait a minute. I gotta find this specific... Is this in the description? Did he link to this? Or am I gonna have to, like, look this up? I'm gonna have to look this up. Okay. What did he say the article was called?
Companies go woke. And what they find, Peter Klein at Baylor University and the Norwegian School of Economics, called Why Do Companies Go Woke?
Norwegian School of Economics. Why do companies go woke? Here we go. Why do companies go woke? The Department of Strategy and Management invite you to a faculty seminar. Woke companies are those that are committed to socially progressive causes with a particular focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. As these terms are understood through the lens of critical theory, there's little evidence of systemic support for woke ideas among executives and the population at large, and going woke does not appear to improve company performance. Why then are there so many firms embracing woke policies and attitudes? We suggest that going woke is an emergent strategy that is largely shaped by middle managers rather than owners. Top managers are employees. We build on theories from intra-organizational ecology to argue that new variation is introduced when middle managers and support personnel use their delegated and responsibility and specialist status to engage in woke internal advocacy, which may increase their influence and job security. This is so fucking, like, vacuous. Like, there is nothing of substance here. We discuss implications for organizational behavior and performance, including perceived corporate hypocrisy, woke washing, the potential loss of creativity from restricting viewpoint diversity, the potential loss of creativity from restricting, like, literal Nazis from having input creatively into our thing. Because, you know, the Nazis were so well known for their art and their diverse art. And the need for companies to track the evolving woke frontier. Yeah, this is hilariously pathetic.
And what they find is that going woke is an emergent strategy that is largely shaped by middle managers rather than owners, top managers, or employees.
Like, this literally, like, means nothing. What they're saying is, like, a lot of these ideas come from, like, not the super high up people, but also not, like, the low people, but, like, the people in the middle. It's like, yeah, no shit. They're the ones who are making most of the creative decisions. Like, the people at the very top are just making financial decisions for the most part. The people underneath the people that this article is talking about are just doing the bidding of those middle manager people who are just doing the bidding of the top people. And a lot of times they will be, like, relatively progressive people, because artists tend to be, because progressive people tend to make better art. And yeah, so that will, like, find its way into what they create. That's not surprising.
They suggest that broader social and cultural trends tend to reinforce the process. In other words, if you're a middle manager, the best way for you to ensure your own future employment is to go woke. Because it means that if you get fired, then you get to yell at your former employer about how they are racist and terrible. If you go woke, it's a protection mechanism. It's an HR problem if you go woke, in other words. If you're a middle manager and you say, I wanted to direct my company in a left-wing social direction, the people at the top of the company are like, oh God, we can't fire this person anymore. Now we're stuck. If we fire this person, they're going to claim discrimination.
Yeah, that's not true. If that were to happen, if they wanted to fire that person, they would just fire that person. The idea that there is, like, any actual protection for people with left-wing ideas in, like, corporate spaces is pathetic.
And again, the people at the top of the company have been bullied into silence by the
people at the top of the company, who he says specifically earlier, are only based on, like, markets and are making their decisions based on what would, like, help their bottom line. He is now saying,
fire this person, they're going to claim discrimination.
Let's see.
And again, the people at the top of the company have been bullied into silence.
He's now saying that rather than them making all their decisions based on money, no, actually, they've been bullied into silence by the woke mob. So there's, again, no consistency between what they believe is happening and what is actually happening.
By the ridiculous kind of legal architecture that's been set up around HR at our major companies. And the people at the bottom don't care. They just want to go and do their jobs. The people in middle management are, in fact, directing the boat at a lot of these major corporations in terms of the woke.
Shit.
All right, guys, the rest of the show is continuing. Now you're not going to want to miss it. We'll be getting into the...
Well, that was pathetic. Let's say, all right, final closing thoughts here. Let me try and put this, let's try and sum this all up. I think Hogwarts Legacy looks like kind of a mid-game. Like, it looks kind of like, it doesn't really look particularly good or interesting. The main appeal of it is that it builds on the fan base that already exists for the world and the setting that is currently being explored in the game. Without that, this game would have gone completely ceremonial, sorry, not what's the word I'm looking for. Like, it would have just released unceremoniously. Nobody would have really given a shit, and we wouldn't really have heard anything about it, because the game itself is not really anything special. But what we did as the trans community was create a culture where we have this game that is always going to do well, no matter what we do, and we are going to stake our political effectiveness on the idea of boycotting this game, which we know we cannot effectively boycott, to the point where we are going to like bully people out of playing this game, even if they were going to use the playing of this game to criticize it and to raise money for causes that the people who are trying to boycott this game believe in and agree with. It is politically ineffective. It's just asinine. There is no, like, we have to focus on outcomes, because if we do not focus on outcomes, we are going to, like, if we don't focus on outcomes, we are just going to, like, continue going on and on about things and complaining about things and not actually build any meaningful support behind our political movement. And then before we know it, it's going to be too late. And that is what I will leave it at, saying that it will be too late. That is what the conservatives are banking on, is that we are just going to be politically ineffective until we die. They also would rather that happens sooner rather than later. They won't say that explicitly, but they absolutely want that. So that is, that's my take on Hogwarts Legacy. If you are streaming it, I say you should probably be very critical of it. You should be very actively critical of J.K. Rowling, especially if you are playing it on stream, especially if you have any sort of following. If you are going to be engaging with the game, it should be in a critical way, and you should be trying to do what you can to support worthwhile causes through your playing of the game, if that's something you're going to do. I don't think it makes you a bad trans ally. I think there are plenty of people who are perfectly good trans allies and are also playing this game. I don't think it excludes you from the left. I don't think it excludes you from being a trans ally. And I think that anyone who says that it does is hurting us politically. I think that that is not an effective way to advocate. And I think that it is dangerous, unfortunately. As much as it might feel good, I think it is putting us in a worse position than we were previously in.